Welcome back. This is part 2 in our series of 5 short videos introducing you to incident management and request fulfillment on the ServiceNow.com platform. The 5 parts of this series include the introduction, part 1, this section, part 2, which is creating a ticket, where we'll talk about identifying and logging, we'll talk about categorizing and prioritizing. Part 3, which is working a ticket, we'll talk about the investigation and diagnosis and escalation. Part 4, we'll resolve a ticket. And then part 5 is tips and tricks on searching, templates, and reports. What you'll get from this segment is we'll show you how to find and enter customers. We'll create new customer records. We get a feed every day from the Harvard databases that give us the records of all people having an HUID. But sometimes you'll get a call from someone who is not yet in the database, and you'll have to create a record for that person before you can open a ticket. We'll talk about opening tickets on behalf of someone, and we'll talk about mandatory and auto-filled fields. We'll start this segment with the first phase in the incident lifecycle, logging the incident. This means creating a ticket. In a moment, Matt will walk you through the steps of creating a ticket in the ServiceNow tool. We'll also talk about the concept of VIPs, who are designated by senior leadership based on a set of guidelines. Before we do that, let's talk about where incidents come from. They come from many places. They come from the first line, which is generally thought to be the service desk. They come from email. They come from direct entry by IT staff. And in the future, they'll come from an IT portal, direct entry by the end users. The guidance we give is that we always want to be professional. We want to be as descriptive as possible in these tickets. And we want to record all the activity, not only what worked, but also what didn't work in the work notes. Now, Matt will walk you through the creation of an incident ticket.
Thank you, Dennis. So, in order to create an incident ticket, click on the Create New button in the Application Navigator, or if you dragged one over to the sidebar, you can click New from there. Or if you're on any list view, there's a New button right at the top. All 3 will get you to the same place, a blank ticket. Let me go ahead and give ourselves a little bit more screen real estate here. So a blank ticket consists of 3 different colored fields. Orange fields are auto-calculated or read-only fields. You cannot change the data in these fields, and that includes priority, and we'll go over that more in the next section. Red labels mean mandatory fields. Those are fields required in order to be able to save the ticket in the next stage. You'll also see darker red fields that indicate that that field was mandatory, but there's already value in it. And you'll see fields like assigned to get change color as it goes from different statuses to when it's required and when it's not required. Green fields means you've changed a value and have yet to save that value to the database. Will turn green. Once you hit save, it will go back to gray or dark red. So to enter a customer, all you got to do is search by their name or the HUID. So if I wanted to add, look for anybody, I can add in their name and not hit caps lock. So if I wanted to look for Dennis, start typing their name, and it'll automatically pull up a list of those people. Just click on it, and it'll fill out their callback number and their location from the person record. Now you can change this on a ticket-by-ticket basis in these fields and not change their permanent record. This is useful if they're calling and they want to call back on a mobile phone instead of their desk phone, or if they're in an alternate office for the day, you can change those location data here. You can, to clear the field, to search again, highlight it, hit delete, and then hit enter, and that will clear the field. And now I can search again. So now I can search by ID. Sometimes it takes a while to return a value on a search. So if I want to search by ID, give it a minute, and it will pop it up. Once it has unique and only one answer, it will automatically fill out the rest of that field. If it finds more than one answer, it will offer you a list. If you're a very fast typer, and there are multiple answers, always stop and wait for the list to pop up before you hit enter. Otherwise, you'll put in a valid answer, like if I type in my name again, since I have multiple results with my last name, it will show invalid before it has a chance to actually pop up the list. If that's the case, just delete it, try again, but this time a little bit slower, and wait before you hit enter. Like so. Sometimes if you can't find a customer, such as a contractor, we don't have contractor IDs in there yet, but we plan on having those, or maybe it's a brand new user and they haven't got their ID yet. You can create a new user by clicking on this little square icon with a blue person on it. Click on that, it'll open up a blank user form. If they do have an ID, like a contractor or maybe somebody that we just haven't got the data yet, but they have a valid ID, enter in the Harvard ID here. That'll help reduce duplicates in the system of people. As we get that information into the data feed, it will match up on that university ID and take the record you created and input it with the official data from their official record. If they don't have university ID, it's okay. I'm going to go ahead and create Clark Kent, and he's soups at krypton.net. You only need the three pieces of information to create a user: their first name, last name, and email address. That's it. Obviously, if you have the rest of the information, like their office, their location, their phone or mobile phone, please add that as well. But you only need the minimum of 3 just to create it. Click submit, and it'll actually move that information into the ticket and make that the user. Another note about users is VIPs, or opening a ticket on behalf of, which is not necessarily always VIPs. It could be a departmental admin calling on behalf of just another user in him or her department. You should always put a ticket in the name of the person that's actually having the problem, the name of the person that's actually being affected. So in case Ann Margulies calls or Mary Carroll calls on behalf of Ann Margulies, because Ann Margulies is having a problem, the ticket should be in Ann Margulies' name. Or if Drew Faust or Dean Smith, any of those people having a problem should be in their name, and their assistant should be added to the customer watch list so that they can be included in all the communications about the ticket going back and forth. So in this case, we'll go ahead and actually use Ann Margulies as the customer. And you'll notice when we pick that customer that their name turns red to highlight that they're a VIP, and they add a little VIP flag in the label to indicate they're a VIP. Now, to add the customer to the customer watch list, we can click on the padlock icon and add in that person's name. And that'll add them to the customer watch list. You can also add individual email addresses as well of anybody else that wants to be informed of the customer communications. Click enter, and you can close the padlock to shorten up that field. Once you've added those people to the customer watch list, they'll get notified with the automatic "this ticket has been created" email, with the automatic "this ticket's been resolved" email, and the email the customer button will automatically include them in the CC lines of any back and forth individual emails or dialogue that you have with the customer or with the assistant directly. One other note we ask you is to fill out that somebody else opened the ticket on behalf of in the description, just to give a little extra information to people reading the tickets to realize that this ticket was not opened by the actual customer, but opened by the person on the customer watch list. So I'm just going to say, Mary called and opened ticket on behalf of Ann. Now that we've entered the contact information into the ticket, we're ready to categorize and prioritize it. Dennis?
So let's talk about what we will cover, what you will get out of this segment. We're going to speak about categorization. We're going to talk about the services, the subservices, whether it's an incident or a request, and we'll talk about assignment groups. We're also going to talk about prioritizing. Prioritizing is a function of impact and urgency. First, we're going to speak about categorization. Hewitt's service categorization scheme is a two-level hierarchy. Has a combination of the service and the subservice. There are approximately 300 of these combinations. For example, we have the service exchange mail and calendaring. And within exchange mail and calendaring, there are a number of subservices, including FASmail. Others include Office 365 and CA mail. For each of these combinations of services and subservices, there are categories of what things are needed in the ticket. For example, someone calls and says, I need something or I want something, can I do such and such? That's a request. If someone calls and says something's broken, that's troubleshooting. So the two basic categories for each service-subservice pair are troubleshooting and request. The combination of service, subservice, and category drive the tool's proposal of a default assignment group. In the case of our example, the service exchange mail and calendaring, subservice FASmail, and a request to install, uninstall, or create a user account drives the assignment group field support. And that's because if someone is ordering a new FASmail account, field support has to visit the desktop or the laptop and make sure the correct Outlook client is installed. And in fact, in the case of field support, there's a fourth level of workflow that looks at the location and assigns it to the proper sub-team within field support that supports that particular location. Let's talk about prioritization. Within the ITIL framework, priority is the result of two factors, impact and urgency. Impact is how big a problem you have. Is it an individual or is it university-wide? Urgency is how bad a problem do you have. Is it my work's not affected, I can't print to my printer today, but I can use the one next door? Or is it my work is blocked? They upgraded my computer last night and this morning it's a brick. So the impact and urgency give us a priority. Priority goes from a low of normal to a high of major incident. Now, if you correctly input the impact and the urgency and get a result of a major incident in the ticket, we want you to save that ticket and call the major incident hotline on the back of the trifold, because that's a general alarm fire. The incident commander on duty will reach out to the service owners and get everybody necessary on the conference bridge to restore service for that incident as quickly as possible. One more point on the priority. We spoke briefly about VIPs. If the incident is for an individual who is classified as a VIP, that incident automatically has a priority escalated by one level. So if a VIP has their work degraded, that incident would, instead of being normal, be elevated to a high. So now Matt is going to walk you through how to categorize and prioritize an incident in the ServiceNow tool. Matt?
Thank you, Dennis. So we noticed that the service and category fields in our original ticket are blank and still mandatory. You can search by any for the services by clicking on this magnifying glass and using lookup using list, which, by the way, works for any of these reference fields that you see magnifying glasses on. But when you click on that, you'll see all 300 services in a two-level hierarchy. and trying to select or find the appropriate service for the ticket is time-consuming and would be difficult, and we don't recommend this method of trying to select a service. However, we do recommend typing to find the service the same as you did with the customer record. You can search on the service name, like Exchange, and it'll show you all the Exchange service and all of its subservices. You can search for a particular alias, like Fastmail, such as that, and that'll show you just that. Or you can search on a particular alias, like Fastmail used to be called Iris. You can type in Iris, and you'll see that alias for that. We have several aliases for systems, and if you need to find something, you can always type in, ask us for additional aliases, and we can add those pretty easily. So if we type in autoreg, we should get networking services, self-service tools. Or we type in PIN, and we'll get the PIN services. You'll notice that there are two categories for PIN, the request and troubleshooting, which you can either use looking up during list or start typing them to pick, and that will automatically drive the assignment group. So in this case, troubleshooting for PIN goes to Jane Hill's IAM product and directory services group. Some services like Fastmail have multiple categories. Install and uninstall of the email client, interruption service, account requests to add or modify permissions on our account. And as you click on those, they'll change the assignment group. If I change it to install, it'll change it to field support. Now on to impact and urgency. As Dennis said, impact and urgency define what the priority is. That is why priority is a read-only field that you cannot change yourself. You have to change either the impact or the urgency in order to change the priority of a ticket. So in this case, it's an individual, only Ann is affected. But let's say the issue is so dire that her work is blocked. You'll notice the priority jumps up to critical ticket because Ann is a VIP. For regular users, if I change this back to Dennis, you'll notice that it's a high for the same instance. We have multiple levels of impact, including individual, single group, multiple groups, and university-wide, but we should make sure that we treat those as synonyms, especially with urgency, to what the actual issue is. They're supposed to be descriptors to try to help you align the impact to the correct group or the urgency to the correct level of importance without being taken so literally. Please see the Incident Management Quick Reference Guide for other examples of what a level 1 urgency ticket might be besides work blocked, such as compliance issue or security issue. They're all called out in the Incident Management Quick Reference Guide. So that's how you set priority.
Thank you, Matt. That concludes part 2 of this 5-part series of short videos on incident management and request fulfillment on the ServiceNow.com platform. We hope you've enjoyed it. We always welcome your feedback by email at itsm@harvard.edu. And remember to come back to the website, hewitt.harvard.edu/ITSM, for more information and changing information on the ServiceNow tool. Thank you.